Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1, A Son for a Son. Boy oh boy, I was super excited about the season premiere of this show. Yeah guys, hell yes, it is back, yay. I got my shirt ready to wear for this particular video. I need to order more House of the Dragon related shirts so I can change up my shirts every episode. Because I am definitely planning on doing episode reviews weekly for this show. For God's sake, you guys, look at this, look. I got a whole page of notes, and this is just for one episode, okay? I have a lot to say. Now, I know everybody wants to talk about that ending, but of course, I'm going to save that for the very end of this video because I definitely have some thoughts and feelings on the, no pun intended, the execution of the particular ending sequence. So yeah, let's get going. Yeah, guys, like I said, I have a whole page of notes here to get through. There's a lot that happened. So yeah, this is the episode is called A Son for a Son. Very dark, very dramatic. We see that play out in full by the end of this episode in pretty gruesome ways. Let's be real. Okay, let's start first with the new opening title sequence. Was anybody expecting that? Because I was kind of prepared to kind of look away from my screen for a minute and not really pay attention, you know, like listen to it, because I love listening to the theme song, obviously. But then I was like, wait a minute, there's something else going on here on the screen. What the new opening credits are? It looks like a medieval tapestry, if you will, like when you're in England and you're looking at some of the hangings on the walls and whatnot. It looks very much like a medieval tapestry, and I love the whole look and design of the new opening credits. I liked, as much as I did like the opening credits for season 1 of the show, I think I far prefer these opening credits. I think it's just cooler, it's neater, it's easier to follow what's going on, because as the tapestry is weaving and flowing and whatnot, you definitely get the idea these are big important moments and events within like Targaryen history and whatnot, and plus events that we have seen in the first season. And yeah, events prior to that, it looked like. I definitely need to watch like a breakdown video of every little thing that was going on in the tapestry, because I'm sure there was a lot I was missing, because it was kind of overwhelming watching it for the first time. But it was very beautiful. I loved it. And yeah, the music on top of it by Ramin Djawadi, yes. And directing this episode, we have Alan Taylor returning. Yay! I don't think he directed any episodes in season 1 of this show. I believe this is his first time coming back since he did Game of Thrones. Because I know he did a couple episodes in those early seasons of Game of Thrones, and then he kind of went off and did other things. So it's nice to see Alan Taylor back. So we open at Winterfell and the Wall. Ooh, we all knew this was coming. We know Jace was heading off to go talk with Cregan Stark and whatnot. So we finally get to see some of that come into play here in bits and pieces. It was nice that the show opened up this way, opening up in familiar land, familiar territory, and it gave me all the feels. It gave me all the feels when we kind of rise up over the hill and we see Winterfell and we get like that voiceover. I believe that's Cregan Stark talking, kind of giving us kind of the lore and history of House Stark and how the Wall kind of got going, and how members of House Stark go to the Wall, and that it's not something to be afraid of, and it's not some sort of punishment, it's an honor. Because later, in like the main show, going to the Wall is a punishment. If you're a murderer or a rapist or a pedophile or something like that, you go to the Wall. Or yeah, a bastard. A lot of people send their bastard children, like Jon Snow, up to the Wall. So I like kind of that difference. It's very, very different here with the Wall, that it's something much more serious and not to be taken lightly, because like Cregan Stark is even saying to Jace, we're keeping out certain things, but we're also keeping out death. They know there's something else beyond that wall. It seems like the show, they want to tease the White Walkers. The Targaryens obviously know something's coming, as we see with the blade. What's written on that blade, the whole song and ice, and the song of ice and fire prophecy and whatnot, and there's gonna be a deep dark winter that comes. So the Targaryens are sort of kind of aware of that, some of them anyway. I love this kind of dramatic opening, but it's like a very comfortable opening, kind of revisiting the wall and Winterfell, and yeah, getting introduced to Cregan Stark. I hope this is not it for Cregan Stark. I'm assuming a lot of the random miscellaneous characters we met in this episode, I'm assuming a lot of them are going to come back in big, pivotal ways. So I'm curious how Cregan Stark is going to kind of wind up back into the equation, because I'm assuming he's here for the war, you know, to help out Team Black and whatnot. And you guys, it's here at the wall. Poor Jace gets news of Luke's very tragic demise. My God. Oh, and no words are even spoken kind of during the sequence. Cregan Stark, he looks at the memo that comes, and he looks at Jace like, oh shit, this is bad news, buddy. And it's like, Jace knows. So then we move to a really nice sequence with Daemon and Rhaenys. And Rhaenys, she's been kind of roaming around on her dragon, and you definitely get the idea. The way she's kind of getting off of her dragon and getting down. You know, she looks exhausted. She looks tired and worn down, and she's been on dragonback for probably hours, if not days, because I'm not sure how many days have transpired here between season 1 and season 2, but it seems like she's been kind of roaming around dealing with some things, and she just wants to go lay down and take a nap, rest. And here's Daemon. Daemon is ready for action. He is ready for battle. He is ready for war. He doesn't want to just be content to sit around plotting and scheming. He wants action now, which it's like you understand Daemon's point of view in a sense that we need to do something now while they're not expecting it, while Team Green is not expecting it. But at the same time, that's kind of a bad idea. You can't just go into something and then that might just make a situation worse, So it's like you kind of understand Daemon's point of view, but at the same time, dude, you need to just chill. Let everybody, we need to regroup and we need to think rationally. And you definitely learn very quickly in this couple minutes here between Rhaenys and Daemon that Rhaenyra is absent for right now. She has been roaming around on her dragon looking for the remains of her son and his dragon, and she's solely focused on that. She doesn't care about ruling right now. She doesn't care about what needs to be done. She wants to look for her son, obviously. And Rhaenys totally understands that. She is totally compassionate towards Rhaenyra's feelings and what she is going through, whereas Daemon doesn't seem to really care, and he doesn't seem to understand either. Because even though he is related to Luke in a sense, because that's still technically what, his nephew, right? that would technically be his nephew. The thing is, that's not his son by blood at all, so he doesn't really have that connection, obviously. But yeah, Rhaenys totally is compassionate and understanding. Like, hey, Daemon, you need to give your wife time to grieve, because the state that she's in, she doesn't need to be making irrational decisions. Let her grief play out, and when she's ready, and she'll make the best decisions that she probably needs to make then. And I love the little burn right there at the end too, because she was basically implying, hey, she's my queen, you're not my king, you're not the one who's supposed to be making decisions. So burn. We do have a really small sequence with Corlys Velaryon. He's still very much injured, a poor guy. I hope Corlys gets back on top eventually. We need to see him back in action, but I feel like it's going to be slow going here with him. He suffered a pretty terrible injury. It's just a really small sequence with Corlys, but I still liked it. And we do get the introduction of another new character, a guy named Alan. And we get the idea that Alan is the guy who saved Corlys when Corlys got injured. It once again a very brief, quick sequence, but we're definitely left with the idea that this Alan guy is probably going to be important and that he's going to pop up again. I've not particularly been spoiled about anything, but I have heard the name Alan a lot in conversation about this show, so I'm anticipating him being a big, huge, pivotal character. At the moment, I'm not quite sure how, but I'm excited to figure that out on this journey. So going to Team Green here, Aegon. Ooh, Aegon. Aegon's not a good king, you guys, but boy oh boy is he fun and amusing. I don't know what that means. But yeah, Aegon, he walks into Helena's room. His children are, being children, obviously. And he's like, hey, I want to take my son to a small council meeting because he's going to be king after me. And of course, Helena's like, he's a child. He has no business being at a meeting. He's not going to grasp anything for the moment, obviously. But, Aegon, even though Aegon, he's not going to be a good king, it seems, but I like his enthusiasm. I like his enthusiasm and his willingness to just go at it and to try. And this was something that I liked that was brought up in some of the behind the scenes interviews about this whole thing with Aegon and his son, that Viserys was so duty bound, and all he wanted was a male heir to reign after him. But the thing is, it's like he got his male heir but didn't do anything with his male heir. He put all of his time and energy into Rhaenyra, which was great, but he put absolutely no time and energy into Aegon, which I think was a mistake. He should have been helping both of them out, even though he wanted Rhaenyra on the throne. I think he still should have been helping out Aegon to some degree for him to be a good advisor to Rhaenyra. But instead, Aegon just went off and got drunk and had parties, and I think he went off and fathered a bunch of illegitimate children. Is that what happened back in one of those episodes last season? I was a little confused about all that. So, I once again, the behind the scenes interview discussions, we're talking about Aegon. He didn't give that love or attention from Viserys, and he didn't get to join in on those council meetings. And so now it's like he wants to make an effort with his own son. He wants to make that effort that was never given to him, and I kind of like him for doing that. Yes, a small child should not be at the meeting, but it's like I like his enthusiasm and effort towards it. And you guys, perhaps the most shocking thing, okay, I know there was a big shocking ending to the episode, but for me, seriously, the most shocking thing that happened in this episode was the fact that Alicent and Kristen Cole are a thing. Oh my god, seriously, how long has this been going on? When did it happen? Has it been going on since the death of Viserys? Like, literally, like, the day after? Or is it more recent than that? Or has it been going on? That's kind of a question I have. Has it been going on and no one knows about it? If it has been going on, oh boy, Larys knows. Larys knows everything. But, oh my god, Alicent and Kristen Cole are a thing, and you know what? I'm not going to complain about it. I'm totally here for it. I'm going to ship it. Alicent has been with a older man who was literally falling apart and rotting away. So I don't blame her for being with Kristen Cole, who is younger and hotter. It's like, you go, girl. You go, girl. I don't blame her for doing that at all. If this is what she needs, this is what she needs. Now, is it probably going to turn out to be rather problematic and toxic? Probably, especially knowing the direction the Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole relationship went in season 1, so it makes you wonder if Alicent starts pushing him away, is he going to start treating her the way he started treating Rhaenyra? Poor Kristen Cole. It's like, I like Kristen Cole's character, but it's so frustrating, kind of the direction he took, because he was spurned. He was spurned and burned in love, and he still is not over that. Even to this day, he is still not over it, because he just totally despises Rhaenyra. So I'm kind of curious the progression of this Alicent and Kristen Cole relationship, because is he going to fall into the same trap and get really upset with Alicent whenever she kind of turns on him eventually, I would imagine. Okay, moving on to the small council sequence that does happen after this. That whole sequence was hilarious. In an episode that's pretty dark and gloomy, the small council scene is a nice breath of fresh air. And uh, yeah, we have Aegon kind of just, chilling and relaxing at the one end of the table and not really paying attention to anything. Like Otto Hightower is all serious and business. And then, like, even when Aemon walks into the room, he's like really serious about stuff. And yeah, Aegon's just paying attention to his son, who's off over on the other end, messing around and playing, and the little marble balls that they have. Oh my god, that was hilarious. It was making me think of Baby Yoda, you guys, from The Mandalorian. You know how obsessed Baby Yoda or Grogu is with the little like the little ball thing that's on the top of like the like, I guess, the gear shift in the Mandalorian's ship or whatever. I'm not quite sure, but it's some little round thing. Yeah, Aegon's son was making me think of Baby Yoda the whole time, with him playing with the little marble ball thing. And yeah, Tywin Lannister, oh my god, he was just down there like, sir, are you going to do anything about this? My god, what is he doing? Make him stop. You could see that he was irritated and frustrated, but trying to put a smile on his face, like, yeah, this is my future king. I can't get pissed off at him and, like, smack him. Okay, moving on to a quick sequence with Larys and Alicent. Ooh, anytime Larys pops up, you know it's going to be good, because he knows things. You get the idea that within maybe the last several days that have transpired, Larys has been talking to people and killing people, like people who he thinks might be traitors, who have been doing things. And he brings up very quickly to Alicent that I have personally handpicked your new staff. And ooh, what a chilling sequence, you guys. What a chilling sequence when she's trying to take her bath, and you have that fresh in your memory that he just said, I handpicked your new staff. These are all brand new women around her, purposely picked out by him. She knows what kind of man he is. She knows what he is capable of. She knows that all of these women around her are working for him. They are doing his bidding. She knows they are most likely going back to him, giving him information. She can't trust these new women around her, and it's such a really well done scene, and how it's shot. You can see on Olivia Cook's face, that uncomfortableness that's on her face. Like, God, who are these people? They're touching me. They're seeing me naked. She doesn't like it. You can see that her skin is just crawling. And she gets back into that nervous habit that she had, where she kind of was like picking at her fingers. She sits and she starts scrubbing her skin really aggressively. Like, it's like, that's Alicent's quirk. Whenever she's anxious or nervous, she resorts to kind of harming herself, and this is kind of one of those moments she feels kind of out of her element. She feels so uncomfortable, and yes, she's trying to scrub away that filth that she feels, mentally. So then, going back to Team Black quickly here, we see that some fishermen, they've pulled out of their nets bits and pieces of Luke and his dragon. You guys, oh god, it was really sad, upsetting, devastating. And then, yeah, here comes Rhaenyra, because she's watching all this, because she hears them shouting about, hey, we found a dragon wing. Here comes Rhaenyra, jumping off her dragon, running over to what's left, and it's devastating. And yeah, her breaking down at that moment, that this is what she has been looking for. She has needed some physical proof that her son is dead and no more. She just couldn't accept the fact that there was nothing left. She needed that proof, and she has the proof, and it's good for her mentally. I think that's just it. It's good for her mentally that she can move on now, and she can process her grief. Oh, but yeah, just see the wing, you guys. Just the one poor little pitiful wing there, and it looked like there was a bit of Luke's clothing there, but no remains. If there were any remains of his body, it seems like that all kind of just perished out at sea. It's out in the ocean somewhere. So, oh Lord, seriously, whew, a really good emotional scene where, like, no line of dialogue was even being spoken in that moment. You could just, like, Emma Darcy's body language just said it all, and I loved it. And then even her dragon, was Syrax, even her dragon was in some sort of mourning. I love the connection between the dragons and their riders, because even on the main show on Game of Thrones, whenever Daenerys was going through things, her dragons would kind of cluster around her, and you can kind of feel that mood and energy between Daenerys and her dragons. And I mean, for God's sake, in Game of Thrones, when Daenerys died, spoiler, when Daenerys died and Drogon was there and he saw that Daenerys was dead. I mean, Jesus Christ, that emotion coming out of Drogon in that moment when he realized Daenerys was dead was powerful and gripping. So I've always really liked that bond and connection between dragon and rider, and you definitely see it here with Rhaenyra and Syrax. Syrax kind of comes over too, and he's looking at the mess, and he kind of lets out his little roar and whatnot. It was so sad, huh? Okay, back to Team Green. Seriously, I'm doing everything in order because I don't want to miss anything. Aegon, we see him in the throne room. He's just chilling and relaxing on the Iron Throne. In Game of Thrones, and then on this show with Viserys, everybody sits on the Iron Throne with power and purpose and duty. And I love how Aegon, I love his manner of how he sits on the throne, because it's just so relaxed, and there's like nothing businesslike about it. It's really hilarious and humorous, but he needs to really come into his own. He really needs to develop into his own and the type of king he wants to be. And you definitely see what he's trying to be, but it's not working. I think Aegon, he thinks that he needs to be liked. Once again, let's get into the whole Machiavelli thing. From Machiavelli's The Prince. Is it better to be feared or to be loved? And it seems like Aegon wants to take the approach of, hey, I want to be loved. But that's kind of the thing you got to balance when you're a leader. When you're a leader, you got to balance that tough act of being feared but also being loved. You got to find that middle ground. And I think Aegon, we're going to see him throughout this season really struggle with that at times. Now, yeah, at the events of what happened at the very end of this episode, I don't know, maybe Aegon is going to totally shift around and be a whole completely different person. I don't know. But yeah, for right now, in this particular moment when he's hearing these petitions, he's trying to behave like he's everybody's best friend, and that's not really the good approach. And oh Lord, Otto Hightower, I loved him because here come all these people like, hey, my king, I need this, I need that, and Aegon's like, oh yeah, sure, okay, I'll give you that, no problem. And Otto's over there like, for the love of God, man, stop. We can't do this. Either we don't have the finances, or we don't have this, or we don't have that, It's not feasible and logical to kind of just give out things, Aegon is just trying to please everybody, He wants to be liked, he wants to please everybody. Otto knows that, Otto clearly can see that, and Otto definitely sees, hey, you need to be firm and strong. You can't sit and try to make everybody happy. That's just not going to work. Because because in trying to make everybody happy, at some point you're going to make somebody unhappy. And we also get introduced to another new character here, played by Kieran Bew. This actor, I have seen him in numerous other British productions over the past couple decades. I love him as an actor, so I was really excited to see him on this show. He's playing a character named Hugh. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot more with this character, because I noticed Kieran Bew's name. I noticed his name was in the opening credits, like a main character. He wasn't in the rolling credits at the end of the show. He was in the main credits with the tapestry. So I'm anticipating him being a bigger character, even though he had just a small couple minutes here. So we'll see how that goes. So we get another scene with Larys, you guys. Ooh. Larys takes Aegon to the side. He wants to have a nice personal private conversation. And once again, you always have to pay attention to Larys in these moments, because he always words things in such a way that he kind of comes off looking good, or he turns things around to make it look like it's Aegon's idea, He's basically putting the seeds of an idea in Aegon's head, like, hey, do you really want to keep Otto Hightower around as your hand of the king? And Larys doesn't say it outright, like, hey, make me your hand of the king. But the way he's wording things, the way he's trying to kind of snuggle up there with Aegon, he's trying to put that idea, I think, into Aegon's head, like, as you're thinking about getting rid of Otto Hightower, maybe think of me, He never downright says that, but that's what he's trying to imply and get across, Once again, trying to make Aegon probably eventually think that was Aegon's idea, not Larys's idea. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to Larys this season, because he is, we have a lot of complexities and issues with Team Green and Team Black because no one is pure good, no one is pure bad, but I think Laris Strong is more on the side of being a bad guy and downright a villain. So I'm very intrigued to see kind of where he's going to get up to this season. He's essentially this show's version of Littlefinger. He's the guy working behind the scenes and is going to just kind of rise up out of nowhere in big, shocking ways, I'm anticipating. So, yeah, always pay attention to Laris. Dear God, I hope we get no more foot sequences this season, but we probably are. And then we do have a really quick scene between Alicent and Otto, which was nice. Them basically saying to each other, hey, we need to get back on the same page here. We've kind of had our differences, but we need to really come together and be tight. Because if our family kind of falls apart here, that's how Team Black is going to wiggle their way in and defeat us, so we need cohesion and unity within this family. And yeah, like even at the small council meeting, it's like she wanted her voice to be heard, but all the other men were just speaking around her, and she wants a say in what's going on, and she wants her sons to listen to her. She wants them to listen to her, or else she really truly feels like things are going to fall apart, which they probably are bound to. And then moving on quickly here to Daemon and Mysaria. Daemon essentially takes Mysaria a hostage, thinking her, that she betrayed everybody, she's a traitor, which she kind of is, But once again, Mysaria looking out for Mysaria. She got to do what she got to do, And I do have to admit, I love this entire freaking cast, but Mysaria is the one character that I am very indifferent to. You guys, I just don't really care one way or another about Mysaria. If she just died randomly in an episode, I don't think I would particularly care. I mean, my feelings about Mysaria could change over the course of the season if they do develop her more. I think that's kind of my problem with her as a character. She's just not very well developed, and she feels just really flat and one-dimensional. And yeah, she had all that stuff going on with Daemon in season 1, but that was kind of about it. So I'm very indifferent to her character, but I am open to liking her if they do more with her. So not only is Daemon having these issues with Mysaria, but it kind of seems like he's just suspicious of everybody. He wants to throw guilt at everybody or something, because even the one guy, Eric, the one half of the twin units that their names sound identical, I feel like I'm never going to figure out who is who. Let's be real. But like even when Daemon is talking to that guy, Eric, like he's trying to throw shade and suspicion even to him, like, hey, you were over there with the Greens and all of a sudden you're over here. Should I trust you? Or are you just gonna go running back over there? Are you a spy? It's like all of that's kind of being said there almost without words. And I like how Eric responds, because he's like, hey, me and my brother, we work for the Targaryen family, but for God's sake, what are we supposed to do when the family splits up and divides and you all have your own issues and drama? What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to protect the whole, but now where do we go? What are we supposed to do? And then Rhaenyra finally returns to Dragonstone, and it occurred to me, while watching this episode, Rhaenyra has had absolutely no lines of dialogue, and then when she finally does re-enter the show, her one line of dialogue is, give me Aemon Targaryen. And that one line, it's probably the most powerful line of dialogue in this whole episode, I think, and it comes from the one woman who has not said a single word the whole episode. So yeah, give me Aemon Targaryen, and oh boy, that sure does set some stuff off right there, because Daemon takes that as permission to do what he does. So I like that it seems like Rhaenyra is back, when I finished watching the episode, it seemed like there were the group of people who didn't like that Rhaenyra was lacking in the episode, but then the group of the people who were fine with the lack of Rhaenyra. I'm kind of in the group of people. I was fine with the lack of Rhaenyra in this episode, because her one line of dialogue, I think, was really powerful, and probably the most powerful line of dialogue in this whole episode, because we'll see a lot of Rhaenyra in the remainder of the season, I'm assuming. So I didn't have a problem with her lacking in this particular episode. The woman needed to grieve. She needed to find the remains of her son and process that grief and move on. And yeah, now that she has done that, I think now we're going to see a Rhaenyra really into her power now, and she's going to be all with business. Moving on here. So, as I said, that bring me Aemon Targaryen, Daemon takes this as permission to do what he does. He goes off to Mysaria and be like, hey, you help me, I help you, maybe we can come to some agreement here that you can have your freedom, because Mysaria obviously desires her freedom. She has no desire to be locked up in the dungeons of Dragonstone. So we do get a really quick, brief funeral sequence for Luke, which was really nice and beautiful, the lovely music, and yeah, I think everybody getting closure now. Now that they found bits and pieces of the incident, they're going to get their closure now, and they can move on in that grieving process. And I really like this sequence because we get some moments with Alicent during this funeral, and Alicent goes to like that to. Is it the Sept of Baelor? Is that what it is? I'm trying to remember all the buildings now. But she goes and she's lighting those candles, and I think the first name she says, I think that's the name of her mother. You know, like she's given a candle to all of the departed to remember them and, you know, give her prayers. I think that first name was her mother. And then like the second one is for Viserys. And the third one, she's contemplating. She's contemplating should she send a prayer out to Luke or not. And I'm glad that she did. I'm glad that she lit the candle and she downright said Luke's name. It goes to show that Alicent, she's still thinking about Rhaenyra. You know, her and Rhaenyra were the best of friends, and just through a series of events that were no fault of either of them, you know, their relationship fractured and changed forever. And it's in that moment when she has that candle and she says Luke's name, you know, that she's still very much thinking of that bond and friendship that she had with Rhaenyra. And I think too the thing of, hey, I know my son is what caused this, and I can't imagine losing my own child in such a way. I think she's understanding what Rhaenyra's going through. You know, like, my child has not died, but I can imagine that pain and grief I would be feeling if one of my children died, you know. So as a mother, she is sympathizing and she's being compassionate, you know. So I love that Alicent. I'm glad that moment. It was just a really small moment, but I think it spoke volumes about where Alicent is at and what she's feeling deep down that she's not allowed to, like, physically say out loud, you know. Okay, so we see Daemon sneak his way into King's Landing. And as we know from last season, he kept mentioning that he thinks he has some loyal people in the King's Guard that he can kind of talk to and get information from. And so we see that one of these guys is definitely still very, very highly loyal to Daemon. And Daemon comes in and he speaks to two characters who they don't get a name at all, but just through fan discussion over the past year, I know that these two guys are known as Blood and Cheese. Again, they are never referenced by name, but I knew they were called Blood and Cheese just from fan discourse and discussion. So Daemon's going to these two guys. He needs someone to go kill Aemon Targaryen. Once again, Rhaenyra's like, hey, bring me him. I want him dead. Daemon takes that as permission. He sneaks on into King's Landing, tells Blood and Cheese, hey, a son for a son. If you can't get Aemon, I give you permission to kill whoever the fuck you want, as long as it is another child of the Greens. So before we do get into the insanity that is the ending, we do have a quick sequence with Aemon and Kristen Cole, and the two of them, they are like very businesslike. You know, they realize, hey, we got to strategize, we got to get things going, we got to get things planned, because yeah, Aegon is doing nothing. Aegon has no interest in this war, really. It's just kind of in the back of his mind at times. So yeah, Aemon, you definitely get the idea. Aemon, even though he is the second son or whatever, Aemon thinks he could probably be the better king. You know, he thinks he would be the better king. He probably would. Wouldn't it be great? He'd probably be running around killing people left and right, but still, he probably would realistically be the better king. Like, he's ready to step up. That's just it. He is ready to step up if the time calls for it and if he is needed. he's ready to take Vhagar out there and fuck some shit up. And kind of following from that scene, Otto comes in and talks to Aemon and basically telling Aemon, hey, you need to chill. I know you want to get into action here and you want to start some things, but you need to calm down. Control your impulses, essentially, because you're our most powerful player on the chessboard at this moment, and he is. He has the biggest dragon. He's one of their best fighters. Yeah, he needs, even though he's strategizing, he still needs to do it as a group, you know? And yeah, speaking of Aemon, because this is kind of Aemon is kind of always lurking off in the background, you know, in this episode, so you never really get a decent amount of time with Aemon in this episode. So I do want to spend this time to talk about Aemon really quickly, because from my point of view, watching the season finale last year, Aemon lost control of Vhagar. You know, the one time he lost control of Vhagar, and yeah, the dragons, both dragons in that sequence, it was storming, it was thundering, it was lightning. I think the dragons just freaked out, and yeah, Luke and Aemon lost control in that moment. You know, and I don't think Aemon had any intention of killing Luke. You know, I think he just wanted to intimidate him and frighten him. And then, yeah, it's too late. Things go crazy after that point. So where is Aemon at here in this season? I'm very intrigued and curious because we don't get very much of him in this episode. And people kind of keep giving him looks like, yeah, this is your fault, Aemon. If you hadn't killed Luke, we wouldn't be in this situation, you know? Everybody obviously blames him, but I couldn't get a read on how Aemon felt. And I think that will get explored over the course of the season, obviously. You know, this is just episode 1 of 8. So I'm sure Aemon will get deeper into it, you know, how he is really truly feeling, because how much level of guilt does he personally feel? Is he trying to present himself as a uncaring badass to the rest of the family? You know, like, yeah, he's dead. Oh well, I don't care. You know, is that the image he's trying to present? But deep down, does he feel a huge, massive weight of guilt about the whole thing? And does he feel terrible? You know, so that's what I'm interested to explore over the course of this first season, especially with Aemon, where he is at, how he is feeling. Because, yeah, that's what I was getting. He's trying to look like a tough, uncaring badass, you know? But I think there's something more emotional and psychological going on underneath the surface. Okay, so let's resume to, like, the last 10 minutes of this episode where we're following Blood and Cheese. Once again, they're never referred to as Blood and Cheese, but that's... I knew that's who they were just from kind of what I've heard people talking about on the internet. Talking about, like, you know, the Fire and Blood books and whatnot. The Blood and Cheese sequence, I'm very conflicted about it, and I'm going to hash it out here. I think a huge chunk of it was executed really well, because they're sneaking into the castle, because the one guy says he knows everything pretty well, that he can sneak in and out, and make himself look like he's supposed to be there, you know. So they're sneaking around through the castle, and I liked all the set design and how the camera was following them around, and yeah, you see all these rats everywhere. They're going through the nasty sewers. We're getting to see all these just random miscellaneous places within, you know, King's Landing, or, you know, within the castle. We're seeing all these places we don't ever see, because when we're with the characters, we're always like in their bedrooms, or we're in the throne room, or the small council room. You know, we're always in these nice, really fancy places. So I like kind of seeing some of these more dirty, gritty places, you know, like the sewers. So I liked how all that was shot, how we're following them. And I think that build up, the tension and build up, because you know something bad is about to happen. You know, especially Daemon saying, hey, a son for a son, I don't care what happens. Either give me Aemon or give me somebody else. You just know something is going to go wrong here at this moment, because Aemon is too big and important of a character. You know it's not going to be Aemon that's going to die. So I liked how they were sneaking around, that tension and build-up. That was just really done so well. And yet even them stumbling across the throne room, and there's Aegon just sitting on the throne all drunk with his buddies. It's like, this is the Iron Throne. You don't treat the Iron Throne like this. It's like there's no respect there. You know, there's no respect for Aegon in a sense. Like, he's just sitting there all drunken around the throne with his buddies. But still, very hilarious, because it just says so much about Aegon, you know. And yeah, where he is at this moment, when there's two people sneaking around in his castle about to commit what they're about to commit, and there he is drunk on that throne, doing nothing. So they stumble across the room that Kristen Cole and Aemond were in when Otto was talking to Aemond at that one sequence. They do stumble across that one room, but no one's there. And then the next thing that happens, they stumble into, I guess, the nursery. I guess that's supposed to be the nursery. And Helena's in the bedroom with the two kids, Aegon's kids. Or are they? I still want to believe that possibly those kids are actually her and Aemon's kids, you guys. I know there's a lot of fan theory and speculation about those children, if they're Aegon's kids or if they're Aemon's kids, because I like the idea of Aemond and Helena together, you guys. Oh, I know it's all incestuous, I know, but oh well. So, oh boy, you guys, this sequence. This was such a rough sequence because in some ways I think the scene was, again, no pun intended, I think the scene was executed in a way that I did like, but also executed in a way that I didn't like. I'm very conflicted about how I feel about this ending sequence. Blood and Cheese are essentially asking Helena, hey, we're here for your son. We're gonna kill him. Which one is it? Because I didn't realize one was a boy and one was a girl. I just thought they were both boys. I didn't realize one was a girl and one was a boy. So they can't figure out which one is the boy because they're twins, I guess, and they both look identical, obviously, with that long blonde hair. So they're saying which one is your son, and Helena, I guess she is pointing at the boy, because at first I was wondering, is she going to lie and say it's the other kid? And then they would call her on the bluff and kill the other one, being like, no, that's actually the son, So she does point to the correct child, and this whole sequence is just so weird because you definitely get the idea that Helena, she's petrified. She's absolutely petrified. She doesn't know what to do. I think it's kind of at the point that she can't even scream. Sometimes when you're terrified of something, you just can't scream. It's like a roller coaster. When I'm on a roller coaster, sometimes I am so terrified on a roller coaster, I can't even let a scream out because I'm so terrified. So kind of compared it to a roller coaster almost. Helena's going through her own roller coaster, her emotional roller coaster right here in this moment, and I think she can't even scream. She can't even move. She has a dagger to her throat, for crying out loud. I mean, if I had a dagger to my throat, I'd be like, I wouldn't be moving either, So you definitely get the idea. She is absolutely petrified and verging into shock. What does she do, So this was just such a weird sequence because Blood and Cheese, they let go of Helena, which I think was a mistake. Why let her go? Because then she takes off with the other kid. And it's not like she's moving very quickly. She just takes off with the other kid and she's moving around at a really quick walk. And that was just I feel like that was just kind of weirdly done because it seems like while the one guy was killing the poor kid, the other guy would have had a hold on her to keep her from running away to go get help, So that was kind of weirdly done to me. But either way, the sequence where the kid, the poor child, is getting killed, I liked the restraint of the scene because this is a child. I think they say at some point he is 4 years old. We don't need to see the child actually getting beheading. The fact that it's done off screen and Helena kind of runs by and you hear the dagger chopping off his head. You can hear it going through the skin and muscle and bone. You can hear it. It's really visceral and gruesome just hearing that. That is enough. It didn't need to be a really gruesome, disturbing sequence just for the sake of being disturbing and gruesome. The fact that it's cut away from is disturbing enough, and that's all we need. But once again, it's kind of the remainder of what happens that is just really so confusing to me that I didn't like how it was executed. Once again, no pun intended. I didn't like how it was kind of directed, I guess. This is the one part of the episode that I think Alan Taylor could have done better with, because Helena just takes off. They let her go, they just let her go, and it's all just done almost kind of calmly. Helena, she knows that her child is being murdered and she's not running, she's not screaming. I know she's terrified at this point, you definitely can tell that she's terrified, but it's like, I don't know, I think I just needed more running and screaming. you know. So yeah, it was just all kind of done really oddly to me. Now, I do like the fact that she ran to Allison's room, because I was curious. I was like, who is she running to? She's obviously not going to run to Aegon. You know, her and Aegon don't really get along that well. They're just married for the sake of being married and to produce children, you know. So I was curious. I was like, who is she going to run to? It's not Aegon. So I was like, it's got to be either Aemond or Alicent. You know, I was like, she's either running to Aemond for help, and I mean, I do like that she ran to Alicent, though. It says a lot about Helena, who she feels the most comfortable with running to when she needs help, because that's her mother. You know, she knows that her mother is there for her and going to protect her. So that's obviously the first person she thinks of. She thinks of and goes to. You know, so yeah, like if she had run to Aemond as well, like I would have found that believable. Her going to Aemond as well, that she feels the most safe and comfortable with him too. You know, so yeah, it definitely says a lot who she runs to. I think, because yeah, it's certainly not Aegon. And the episode ends, and yeah, when she runs to Alicent's room, there's so much going on in this sequence, you guys, because when Helena does run into Alicent's room, Alicent is in the middle of having sex with Kristen Cole, you guys, dear God. So it's like, I had questions about that, because she had told Kristen, hey, we're not going to do this anymore, this is over. But I guess that was a lie. She changed her mind. So they're in the middle of doing that. Here comes Helena. Now, is Helena in just so much shock she doesn't pay attention to what's going on there? Because I'm curious if in the next episode she's going to remember, like, hey, Mom, who are you in bed with? Was that Sir Kristen Cole? You know, I'm curious if that's going to be brought up, if if she even processed that, if she's even going to remember it, you know? Because I think I think Alicent is going to be wondering the same thing too. Like, okay, how much did my daughter see exactly? How much do I need to be paranoid and whatnot? But the thing is, there's more important things going on. A child just got killed, you know? So, yeah, the very last line of dialogue, Helena says they killed the boy. That's all she says, and yeah, Alicent's just like, what? And that's how the episode ends. So, yeah, a pretty horrific conclusion to this episode, because for the most part, the episode, it was slower. You know, it was definitely slower in pace. We were getting reestablished with this world, where these characters are currently at after the death of Luke and whatnot. So I liked the pacing of this episode, and then yeah, just the shocking nature of the ending, because I wasn't expecting this event to happen at the very end of this particular episode. Now, yeah, I had been spoiled that this moment was coming, unfortunately. People had kind of already ruined that for me with Blood and Cheese, and yes, someone dies, you know, one of the kids gets killed. I had already been spoiled about that, unfortunately, but I didn't expect it to happen in this particular episode. I thought it was going to happen a few episodes down. So yeah, it happening this early, my God. So yeah, this family, you know, where does this end? Because the family is just perpetuating this cycle of violence. You know, it started between Aemond and Luke, and then yeah, Rhaenyra getting upset and being like, "Hey, bring me Aemon Targaryen." Daemon being like, "Okay, fine, I'll go do it." And yeah, Daemon just perpetuating that cycle of violence. And yet now one of these kids has been brutally murdered. So the Greens obviously are going to want to retaliate. You know, they're going to retaliate and want to kill somebody else. And then, yeah, then the Blacks are going to be like, okay, we're going to retaliate on you. So it's this never-ending cycle of violence with this family, this never-ending cycle of a blood feud. And where does it end exactly? That's the question, I think, of this whole show. Where will this feud end? Because it's got to end at some point. You know, but who are we going to lose along the way? Because I'm expecting we're going to lose a lot of people. A lot of people are going to die, and there's really only going to be a small percentage left. Because you know, even from the main show, you get the idea like there's no one in the Valorians. There's absolutely no Valorian family in the main show. So I'm assuming they're all dying at some point. And then yet, even within the Targaryen family, you know, it's like you have Daenerys and the Mad King and Rhaegar. And yeah, you get the kind of the reveal of Jon Snow being a half Targaryen, but it's like he's literally the last of the Targaryens. You know, when Game of Thrones ends, Jon Snow is it, and he's not even a full Targaryen. You know, he's a half Targaryen, and that's it for the Targaryens. Their whole family has been wiped out. So I'm expecting the House of the Dragon show. We're getting kind of the destruction of this family and how it's going to get very, very small. You know, because there's not very many Targaryens even in Game of Thrones. So I think that's just gonna be the tragedy of this whole show, knowing that a massive amount of people have got to die, all your favorite beloved characters, you know. Yeah, and like I said, this perpetual cycle of violence and death and murder, where does it end, and who makes that decision to end it? You know, does Rhaenyra end it? Does Aegon end it? Who gets to be like, okay, enough is enough. This has to stop. That's going to be the fun, interesting thing, I think, watching this show. How it all concludes and wraps up. But yeah, all the death and violence along the way, yay. So yeah, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on this very first episode of House of the Dragon. As you can see, this video is very, very long. I talk a lot. I love this show. I love the world of Westeros in general. So you guys, in the comments below, definitely hash out all of your feels about this episode. And if you watch this whole video, seriously, I thank you, because I know there's so many other videos out there floating around on YouTube from people breaking down the episode and other discussion videos and reaction videos. And yeah, I'm just one small person. So I really thank anybody who takes the time to watch this video and share your feelings and have a discussion with me down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.